Okay, we have a lot to get through in this next 30 minutes, so I am going to kick it off. My name is Eleni. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Base Beauty Creative Agency, and I'm so excited to welcome you today to today's event, How to Turn Your Purpose into Conversions. So we have a bite-sized 30-minute masterclass planned for you today, and we're going to cover how to use social media for what it was intended for, which is building a community, right? With shared values. And the big surprise here is that authenticity is what really drives sales. So you are welcome and encouraged to ask questions throughout the event using the question and answer function or the chat function at the bottom of your screen. We'll usually have a time at the end for just a few questions. And if we don't get through your questions at the end of the event, we will send out responses after the fact. We'll also send a follow-up email after this with a recording of the webinar and some of our best tips and tricks that you can share with your friends and your network so that you have the learning right at your fingertips. Leading the masterclass for us today is our talented and amazing social media director, Becca Holliday. So I'm going to pass it over to Becca.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Eleni. I'm really excited to share this presentation with everybody. I actually presented this at Indie Beauty Expo in LA in January this year. Eleni and I both traveled out there when travel was still a thing. And it was actually my first time ever speaking on stage. And I was really nervous. So I'll admit that I'm a lot happier joining you all from the safety of my home wearing my slippers right now. But we'll just dive right in. So, I think after the past several months, we're all really aware that communicating brand values to an audience has become more important than ever in 2020. I asked the audience at IBE to raise their hand if they ever woke up in the middle of the night in a panic over something that might go wrong with their business. And I can't see you all right now, but I suspect that number would be, if anything, higher than it was at that event, just by all the things that had happened this year. So I really want you to imagine a world in which that no longer happens, where you sleep soundly and you show up to work or show up to your desk at your house more well rested, equipped to make better business decisions, and able to be a better leader. A world in which your inner purpose is really driving your decisions rather than a fear of failure. And the solution to this can be found in one word, which we will discuss as we get into this. So Base Beauty is a creative agency hyper-focused on beauty and wellness. As the director of social media, I'm hyper-focused on helping our clients express themselves authentically through their marketing and social media so they can sleep better at night, knowing their messages are attracting the kinds of people they're meant to do business with. On a personal note, I've spent the past several years on my own journey of authenticity, challenging myself to find my purpose and confront fear-based thinking that results in fear-based behavior, the kind of fear that can impact our lives as well as our businesses. And while I haven't completely cracked the code on full authentic expression in life and business, I've learned a great deal that I want to share with you. How many of you have felt in your career that you were living someone else's idea of what your company should be? And how often do we dream of something and hesitate because of what others might think? How often in business are we hesitating because we can't distinguish between what's most important to us and what others believe or advise? So maybe if you can't sleep at night because you're worried about your business, it's because sales are down. Or maybe you have unhappy investors. Maybe you have personnel issues. Perhaps it's all of those things, or maybe you aren't aligned with your truth. At Base Beauty, we help identify where your business can be a more authentic reflection of who you are and not what others think you should be. We help you find your truth. We launch brands, we revive brands, and we grow brands by helping them communicate those values. The secret to how we help our clients unlock that success is simple. It's not a mystery equation of ad spend to creative dollars, although I wish I knew what that secret equation was. It's not a secret code that reveals the social media algorithm. The solution can be found in this one word: authenticity. My definition of this is aligning your core values with your decisions and actions, enabling you to tell your story in the most genuine and truthful way. And again, I think this is even more important this year than it has ever been. Truly focusing on that decisions and actions piece, not just talking the talk, but really walking the walk and communicating those values by the things that you do and the decisions that you make as a business. So 80% of Instagrammers research products on the app before they make a purchase. This is huge. And we know that highly engaged followers are more likely to act on what they see. So the question is, are people more likely to interact with a brand they can connect with on an emotional level, or the brand that's just following every trend to try and get a few more likes? The truth is that when your brand is authentic, people will connect with it emotionally. And this doesn't mean posting about every single issue or holiday or awareness month just because your competitors or your peers are doing it. It means really examining what your brand values are and taking action. Again, when your brand is authentic, people will connect with it emotionally. And this is what social media was designed for. It's designed to create communities of like-minded people that have shared values and place in a place where they can connect with each other and with brands that actually speak their truth. Our agency doesn't just help clients find authenticity in social media. We're an omnichannel branding agency. So we create everything the consumer sees and touches, and we help brands create cohesive messaging from every touch point, from packaging, photography, and digital marketing to PR, influencer campaigns, and both paid and organic social. All of these brands have the same toolbox at their disposal. When they open it up, instead of a hammer and some nails or a tape measure, they see this toolbox. They have brand strategy and research at their fingertips, packaging and retail, digital marketing, content creation, public relations, influencer relations, as well as social media. And these are all different ways that we help our clients communicate to their consumers why they should care. When it comes to brand strategy and research, we want to focus on actually owning the white space. So again, not following what everyone else is doing just because it's working or it's trending, but really finding that individuality where customers can connect with your brand. It's also important, obviously, to have shelfie-worthy designs on your packaging and retail, to create conversions in digital marketing, to have thumb-stopping creative in content creation. So that can include design templates as well as photography that are communicating your brand messaging and values, defining your differentiation through public relations, and then also hyper-curated partnerships with influencers. Again, focusing on partnerships that actually communicate your brand values, people who are going to share your authentic audience, not just who you are thinking that they want to see. And then also looking at social media from a paid first approach. So thinking about it from not just the organic side, but also paid social media and creating content that's really authentic to your brand and that your customers want to interact with. So we measure the efforts of client accounts before using this toolbox and after utilizing the toolbox. And what we found was really positive. We saw increases in engagement, an increase in conversations in direct messages and in comments on the feed. And this is something that we particularly like to focus on because it's so meaningful, right? For someone to take the time to send a direct message or to actually write out a comment is a really meaningful interaction from your audience. We've also seen increases in post views and likes. And then of course, the one that everyone wants to see and to know about is an increase in sales. So although it feels good to see the number of your followers on your account rise and a higher like count on photos, are these stats really indicators of success for you and your business? This is always something that I ask our clients when we sit down for our strategy phase. So if your goal is more followers, it's really important to know why. Or if your goal is more likes, you really need to know why that is. And I always ask people, isn't it more important to have the right people who connect? So if your target audience is women between age 25 and 35, and 75% of your audience base is 20-year-old men, are those follower increases really helping move the needle, or does it just feel good to see those follower numbers go up? So the things that we really like to focus on, that we consider quality KPIs rather than vanity stats, are things like profile views, comments, website clicks, the impression to follower ratio, as well as the impression to reach ratio. Saves are a huge one. It shows so much intent. Someone wants to go back to it later, as well as shares, story views, and then, as I mentioned, direct messages. So we encourage businesses to measure stats that prove a really, truly engaged audience. So actionable things like those website clicks, like those comments, like those saves. The impression to follower ratio and impression to reach ratio are other really important factors, and they help assess how many followers are really being reached, and then how many times they're actually seeing that messaging repeated as well. So I have 3 tips to help find your authenticity and convert that into meaningful relationships and ultimately sales with your followers. And the first one is follow your compass. So brand values can guide business decisions in more than just grid aesthetic on Instagram, of course, as we all know. One of my favorite examples of a client following their compass is a teeny tiny skincare brand based out of Naples, Florida. It's a one-woman show. And she's been under a lot of pressure to fit a certain mold, both in life and in business. And I think we all may have felt this at some point in our lives. And yet she's found a way to tell her story in the most authentic way possible. Not only did she repackage her entire line, but she's paving the way for larger companies and setting a precedent with a new system of touch labels that we helped her design. She never would have done this if she hadn't followed her compass. Victoria Watts, who is the founder and CEO of Victoria Land Beauty, has a son who was born with a rare disease that affects his eyesight. And so at 2 years old, and after several surgeries, her son Cyrus was declared legally blind. And she found herself kept up at night, wondering about the world he would live in with a visual impairment. Meanwhile, she was overcoming her own obstacles as a business owner, launching a line of skincare products designed to address specific concerns that she had experienced in her own skin. Part of the proceeds from her young company go to the Boston Children's Hospital, where her son receives treatment from an amazing team of doctors and nurses. And she talked about this at desk sides with editors and on social media, in captions and in stories. But even then, something just wasn't quite lining up. So Victoria embarked on an incredible journey, and we were with her every step of the way. From fully repackaging her line to implementing new social strategies like using alt text on Instagram and leveraging targeted influencers to help tell the brand story. She's now reaching the right people, and it's making a difference, both in sales and in the beauty industry. And guess what? She doesn't have 1 million followers. She has just around 5,000. But these are followers who truly care and truly convert. So looking at the results, we began working with Victoria in November of 2018, and in 2019, the brand saw a 60% increase in sales. Their audience is engaged and showing excited interest in the cause that she supports. And she was excited to share with us that this year, an investor reached out actually requesting a meeting because their algorithm had picked up on her social across multiple platforms. And again, this is a tiny brand with under 5,000 followers. But these are truly engaged followers that are seeing the actions and business decisions that she's making to actually communicate those brand values and that importance. My second tip is to find your lane and stay in it. So let's say you're a skincare brand. You make great products, your packaging is user-friendly, your ingredients are high quality, but you find yourself struggling to engage followers and really break away from the pack. This 50-year-old skincare brand needed a refresh. They're grounded, they're deep, They're old and established, and they didn't need to be everyone else in order to keep up with everybody else. But they were struggling to find that differentiation on social media. They looked at other brands like Glossier and Herbivore with light, airy feeds, and they felt that pull to do something similar. But they aren't those brands. And we advised them that they shouldn't try to be. We worked with them to create custom templates and 3 different photography approaches that really helped capture the look and feel of their brand and to truly set them apart from their competitors. So we helped them identify this visual white space for their feed to live in, really communicating who they are and what they're about, as well as their unique voice. So rather than trying to be everything to everyone, we help them align their values with their visual storytelling. Since implementing this strategy, along with several other aspects of the toolbox, they've seen incredible results. Their engagement has been way up. There was an influx of story tags and an increase in the quality of those stories. And best of all, they have more of the audience they actually want, reaching their true customers. So they went from less than half of their followers being within their target audience to over 70% in just 6 months. My third tip, and perhaps the most important one, is don't chase followers, attract customers. And I know this is a really hard concept, I think, for many of us to wrap our heads around, that, of course we want to chase followers. We want more followers on our feed. That means we're reaching more people. But again, I want to emphasize the importance of actually having those followers being engaged, true customers or people who will become customers. So we've probably all unfollowed a brand or even a friend maybe who just annoys us on social media. And it might be that account that's always selling something or asking for something or trying to get us to do something. They're constantly asking us for something. And the truth is that people don't really like feeling as though they're being sold to. It's not a good feeling. So we've been working with a skincare brand called EltaMD since July of 2018. And just like any other brand, of course, their ultimate goal for social media is sales. But they get it. They know that social media is the long game. They recognize that it's the upper funnel. And because they're willing to play that long game, we've been able to strategize accordingly, and they've seen incredible results. So you won't find a call to action in every single caption on their feed. You will, of course, see it occasionally. But you will see a lot of education on their products, how to use them, and where to get them. A couple of the initiatives that we worked with them on this year through some of their campaigns included working directly with dermatologists to do some really deep storytelling on their brand, as well as influencer partnerships, really getting into that deep storytelling as well, talking about how to use the products, why they're important, and they've had a really great success. So their recent launch, actually, I'm very excited to share this, was their most successful launch in the past 10 years. So this was really huge for them. And I think, that in-depth storytelling really helped convert that messaging to sales for them. And I think part of that is because EltaMD prioritizes brand relationships with their followers. So they've created a real community of Instagram users and those skincare experts. And as their following increased over the past couple of years, they've made it a priority to spend more time responding to comments, questions, and direct messages, making sure to celebrate their followers and their retailers, rather than using their resources to engage in audience building gimmicks. So this has been really positive for them. And as a result, their followers have continued to increase still, of course, but the level of meaningful engagement with their brand has continued to grow. And that's really what we're looking for, is that meaningful engagement. So they don't just say that their customers and their followers are important to them, but they're actually walking the walk and making it very clear. So in 2019, their story mentions and direct messages completely skyrocketed. And the most exciting that we saw there was the number one question was, where do I buy this? When we first started with them, only one of EltaMD's products actually appeared on the first page of Amazon search results. And now 9 of them show up on page 1. So again, really creating that conversion. So I want everyone to ask themselves as we're moving forward, be honest, would you follow your own feed? If you're wondering now whether you chase followers or attract your customers, you can run through kind of a quick checklist with yourself. Do you buy followers or buy likes? Are the majority of your posts asking for something or promoting something directly, or are you educating people or adding value to someone's feed? Be honest with yourself. Are you offering anything to your community, or are most of your posts self-serving? Because the truth is, if you really want to make social media work for you, you have to use it properly. It was created to build a community, to educate, inspire, and entertain. Our recommendation with our clients is that at least 80% of your posts should do one of those things: educate, inspire, or entertain. And by doing this, you'll really build trust and loyalty among your followers. So when you do finally make the ask, that 20% of the time, they will actually be listening. So, Eleni, I guess we can ask any questions. I'd love to answer any questions that anyone has before we kind of close out. We have a few more minutes.
Yeah, great. Okay. Your first question, Becca. How do small brands compete with big brands when trying to grow their community without looking salesy?
I think that's a great question. And I kind of want to go back to Victoria Land a little bit, because she is such a little, tiny brand, and she's been able to grow that audience. And again, I think keeping your focus on connecting with the right people and not just connecting with a million people is so important. So, you might see other brands that have 100,000 followers, and of course you want to get there eventually. But keeping that focus on the right customer, on knowing your target audience and knowing them really well and understanding what they want. So going out and doing research, go to the like-minded feeds, go out and explore your target audience's Instagram and be part of the conversation. And the better feel you have for that, the better equipped you'll be able to actually give them what they want. If you're totally clueless and you're only focusing on your own feed, you're probably going to miss a lot of important conversations that are happening. So one thing I like to tell people is that social media is a party, and you don't want to just stand with your back against the wall, not speaking to anyone, right? Or just yelling out to the group. You need to actually go and interact and join those little social bubbles and talk to people and ask them questions, but really try and get engagement from them, and think of it more as like a networking party than you standing up on stage making a speech at people hoping they listen.
I love that. That's great. Okay, another one. As a founder of a brand who wants to eventually move away from the day-to-day, what is your opinion on incorporating my story and being front-facing into my social media story?
That's such a great question, and it's such a hard question. So I hate to say this, but there's no one size fits all. There's not one answer to that question. It really does depend on each company and each founder and kind of your level of comfort with being involved. I love to get brand founders involved. I think that it really helps create this relatable energy within a feed, and it gives something for people to really latch onto. That being said, I don't think it's the end of the world if you are just so I don't want to be on there. As long as you have some kind of human connection on your feed, you're okay. But you have to give people some kind of storytelling that's human, right? You don't want to have a feed that's just product, 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 product. If you can give something to people that does feel really authentic, right, and that they're able to connect with, if you're able to create that without having that founder story, then by all means, stay behind the scenes and take a step back. You can do this through influencer campaigns. You can have someone else at your company be kind of the face of a campaign if you want. There are a lot of different ways to do it. So although we love founder stories and love having founders present on a feed, it's not the end all be all.
Great. Okay, this may be our last question. I use social media as sort of a guess and check to understand what my consumers want to hear. How long do you think I should try one strategy before expecting results?
So we typically do our reporting once a month. And I find that when we try to report on things with less time than that, it's like under such a microscope that it's really difficult to tell if something is truly working or not. You can get, obviously when you get out 3 to 6 months, that's when you're really seeing these changes. And social media growth is slow. It also sometimes can take a lot of time for an audience to get accustomed to like what you're doing. So I'll give an example of with Alta MD actually. We tried something with a new launch that they had, and we completely changed the look of their feed. Like we just went a totally other direction. It still looked like them, but it was clear, there was a clear differentiation between what we were doing. And it was totally an experiment. We just didn't know what was going to happen. And, I think if we had jumped in, a week or 2 weeks in and just been like, what's going on? We probably would have seen a drop in some engagement just because it's going to take people a minute to figure out what's going on, right? They're so used to seeing something that they love and they're engaged with. And it's going to take them a second to catch on to like, oh, there's still something great happening here that I want to be a part of and that I love this brand, but like what's going on? So I think, those 30-day periods are super valuable if you're able to be patient. I know it's really hard, but if you can be patient long enough to look at all of your numbers in a 30-day period or more, that's when you're going to really like see meaningful results and meaningful analytics.
Great. Becca, this was so amazing. I love hearing you give this presentation. Thank you everyone for joining. If you have more questions for us, Becca's email is right on the screen. Please reach out to us. We will also send a follow-up with this recording and with our tips. Thanks so much for coming.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.